Perfect. Yeah, we've got a good number of people in the chat now. So anybody else that comes in, I'll just admit them as they come. But yeah, hi everybody. Thank you very much for joining the first Diversity in London talk. I'd just like to also thank Carla as well for being our very first guest. What we're going to do is we're going to be recording this video and it'll all be put up onto YouTube if you want to share with friends and colleagues after the fact. So Carla will go through her presentation and then we'll have a short Q&A at the end. So if you do have any questions, then please do just put them in the chat and we'll come to them at the end. For those who don't know, Oliver Bernard, we're a technology recruitment company. We play a fairly active role within the community and we host a number of other meetups, more technically focused, and we have done so for years. We're hoping this one, especially given the climate, can be one to champion more of inclusivity within the tech industry. So we hope this one can provide a bit more of a platform on that regards. We've also just as well on the meetup group as well, we've set up a Just Giving page, and that's in partnership with the National Emergencies Trust, who are also partnering with the Red Cross. So they're providing support to charities who are assisting with the COVID-19 crisis. So if you do have a little bit of time after the talk, sort of any donations will be appreciated. And I suppose without any further ado, I'll hand you over to Carla. Carla?
Thank you so much. Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. And welcome to the meetup. As Umaj was saying, this is the first one. I'm very excited to be talking about women in tech. It's an industry where I've been the whole of my life. So, and it's a very old passion of mine. So I hope the conversation also gets interesting. So I was thinking that I will just do a brief presentation and then just answer your questions. Just don't want to be driving to the theme. Also on the audience, I was checking the invitation last night. I'm not sure how much, but I think there are a lot of women attending this one, right?
Hopefully, yeah. Hopefully there should be.
Yeah, I hope it's not like the stats. I was checking the stats to do this presentation, and the stats were very bad, 10% below. So I hope we have more than 10% on this call today. And I don't know, maybe we could just go around and see who are the people that are on this call whilst we're waiting for maybe a couple of minutes just to say hi. So, hi, I'm Carla. I'm going to be talking about myself, so there is no point. But I would like to hear from other people. Who are the people that who am I? Hi, this is my name. This is what I do, and this is why I'm here. Something like that. Anyone on the call would like to do
that? Okay, my name's Tim. So I'm a Scrum Master for a team of 5, actually out in St. Neots, but I have worked in London before. And yeah, I think the sort of recent events in America has inspired me to sort of try and be a bit more connected with diversity. And that's why I'm here to sort of sit and listen and learn about this. So hello.
Hey, thank you. Welcome.
Hi, I'm Chris Howard. I'm a IT project manager, and my daughter's about to go to university, so I'm sitting here going to share this with her afterwards so that she can share it with her friends to try and encourage more young women to go into IT. So it's not just nerds, for want of a better word, like we all are, to get women involved, because she looks at what I do and goes, nah, I don't want to do that. So it's about sharing that with her as well.
Thank you, Chris. That's such a good topic you brought up there. If I can take my glasses, I can still see, so I'm not a nerd. Rest assured. And I've been in this industry for more than 20 years now. But yes, it's a topic that's very dear to me, as you can imagine. I hope I can deliver up to your expectations. Thank you so much for introducing yourself.
I'll go next. I'm Kev. I'm an engineering manager, and it's actually something I've been involved with most of my career. But recently we had a big drive for recruitment, and it was very apparent that the pipeline of engineers coming into the team didn't have much diversity. So it's something that we've been reaching out to try and address within our own company, so that we can find out why and try and improve it.
Brilliant. Thank you so much and welcome.
Hi, this is Osama. I'm a software engineer at UCAS, and yeah, I've been involved in diversity programs before. For example, at Code First Girls, set up at the University of Birmingham, and yeah, I just wanted to yeah, broaden my knowledge, and yeah.
Cheers. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And thank you for doing the Code Girls thing. That's very good. Thank you.
Yeah. Hi, I'm Vishal. I work at the digital marketer for London School of Commerce. I've got this team, and I'm mostly getting involved in recruitment and also trying to get more women on board, because it just seems like the team is completely like male dominated. Like, it seems we have one girl in the IT department and stuff, and it's you know, it started as a joke that I was talking to her, and she just got like a little offended. And I was like, okay, all right, you know, we have to figure out, and just trying to get the flavor so I don't be as ignorant as I am, or I was rather.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Hi, my name's Anthony Jarrett. Yeah, I do a bit of programming, and I don't think I really pay attention to the opposite gender in terms of the amount of like occupancy within the occupation.
Thank you. Thank you, Anthony.
Hello, my name's Barnaby. I'm an agile coach. I've worked at quite a few organisations over the years, and what I've noticed is that when you have a diverse team, it's more effective and more productive, and that's something I'd like to encourage in my current workplace.
Mm-hmm. Agree. Thank you. Yes, agree with that as well. And the numbers agree with you, Barnaby. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, maybe just a couple more. Yeah,
I'd like to follow Gary Turrington, being CTO of a couple of startups. For me, I think diversity, you know, it's not just the right thing to do, but, you know, better teams with different perspectives, looking at diversity across multiple dimensions, it's better, you know, so it also makes good business sense, you know, so anything which, you know, helps push that message has to be a good thing.
Brilliant. Brilliant. Thank you so much. It's really important to have everybody involved from this level to that level. So brilliant. Thank you. Maybe, thank you so much. Maybe one or other two people. Are there any women on this call?
Yes, there are, but they're having camera issues.
No worries.
My name is Karina Popovich. I was invited to join this group, and to be completely on, I'm a project manager. I'm a senior project manager, have worked in tech for about 10 years now, as a project manager, program manager. And to be completely honest, I was a little reticent to join the call, because while I believe so much in inclusivity and diversity, I felt like as a white woman, like surely there's better voices that we could include and hear, but I also feel like looking at today's audience that I'm also a minority, so I'm glad I made it.
Thank you for making it. I don't want to be alone.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you everyone, obviously, but it's also thank you so much.
Jenny here as well. I'm a female, and I'm actually joined by my husband and my little baby. She's 20 weeks old, so there's another female here too. I don't work in tech. My husband works in tech, and he invited me to this call. I'm a head of inclusion actually at KPMG, so was really keen to come and hear all about it as well. So we're here learning with a 20-week-old, trying to start her early.
Yes. Put her on a program for toddlers or something.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Maybe one last person, and then we can start. I think enough people have joined. Who would like to be the next and the last?
Hi, my name is Magda. I also haven't been invited directly. Actually, the invitation has been forwarded by my husband who works in tech, and he's been actually telling me for years that I actually should join the industry. I'm currently working as an operation director in the company that is not tech related, although I deal with tech on a daily basis. So for me, it's kind of like an exploratory call to see, maybe learn from you, Carla, and see how your path looks like. So maybe I can, get inspired and make my move someday soon. And just to make sure that it's not only like two ladies, there are more of us out there. So you create more like a balanced environment for your speech that we look forward to.
I really appreciate. And by the way, I also try to convince everybody around me to come into tech, regardless. But I understand. I understand your position. It's tough to be around tech people. We think this is the best thing ever.
Yes, exactly. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody, for the contribution. It's just to make us feel as a group. This is a meetup, right? It's just shouldn't just be making a presentation and everybody goes home. So without further ado, I will start the presentation, and then we will open just the floor for questions, for debate, for just sharing our experiences. So let me just share my screen. How much? Are you going to record? Are you recording the session? Sorry, you are. So let me just screen share. Okay, so everybody can see my screen?
Yep.
I can see, yes.
Yep, yes.
Lovely. So welcome to Diversity in London, our first meetup on the subject, sponsored by Oliver Bernard. They are the organizers. I am only the first guest. I hope the first of many. And my name is Carla Ferreira. I am Portuguese. I was born in the north of Portugal, where you have loads of lovely landscapes, very good wine, food, and beaches. And that's where my story begins. I'll tell you more about it, but in a second. So what are we going to talk about? This is going to be a very straightforward agenda. Just a bit of me, who I am, what drove me into IT, then the good and the bad bits, my personal experience as a woman in IT, some of the numbers, and some good news and some solutions that we might be able to implement in the future to bring more women into IT, then the Q&A. So a bit of me in a timeline. When I was 15, I decided to pursue a career in IT. And you might think, oh gosh, this is early. Yes, it was early, but I had some thoughts in my head and wishes for my future, and IT was the only solution for that. And I'll explain a bit more about this later. So I've obviously did IT and my secondary years, which is before uni. At 23, I graduated from computer science, and I started working as a software developer. But after 3 years, as a software developer, I realized I wasn't really keen on this. I was missing a lot of things, like the human factor wasn't there. I was just facing a computer every day. So I decided to move careers slightly. So that's how I became a project manager, which is something that I still do to today. I also do leadership training, and I consult with some companies when it comes to agile project management or things that are similar, but mainly it's all around project management and leadership. So I moved to the UK, more precisely London, when I was 32, and I'm going to be 40 next year, and I want to start my career as a leadership development professional. So that's kind of my timeline on a nutshell. Sorry. And so brands I've worked with, just some of them, I worked mostly for big companies, if I'm honest. Most of them within financial services, some of the big fours, and currently I'm working on a project with a pharma company. So let's start. What drove me into IT? These guys. Some people which are younger than me won't know what this means.
Oh, come on.
But the ones that know, this is Star Trek, the original version, and I spent endless hours watching this. Anyone on the call has watched this?
Well, my favorite Star Trek Next Generation. So I'm a big fan of Jean-Luc Picard here, personally, my husband is a Kirk guy, but I'm Jean-Luc Picard. So
Okay.
that's my personal view.
So this was my main reason, because I imagine myself in this spaceship and all the computers around me, and I'm going to be one of the people that's going to be in there, not an astronaut, but a tech guy or tech girl, and on the ship. And I was going, oh my god, it's going to be amazing. Don't forget, I was 15. Okay, I still was allowed to dream at this moment in my life. So this is mainly the futuristic side of things is what brought me into IT. I wanted to be as close to the future as possible. I always had good grades, so I knew that I could pursue any career I'd like. But I thought, what happens if I become a doctor? And in my head, becoming a doctor was like this: I'm going to learn and I'm going to get stuck at some point. I don't know why I thought like this, but IT was something that I had to push myself all the time. I had to learn. I had to continue. So this is what kind of drove me into it. So, what were the two questions I asked myself when deciding this? I remember very vividly asking myself two questions. One was, what is the job that will keep me learning for the rest of my life? And IT was one of the answers. And what is the job that can get me as close to the future as possible? And again, IT was the answer. So it fitted quite nicely with kind of my aspirations in life. So how was my path? I started as a software developer, as I was saying, but I felt I missed the human factor. It wasn't there. It's just like me and the computer, people giving me requirements, I would implement them. I felt like I was stuck. I was pigeonholed. I felt like that. And after 3 years as a software developer, I came to my mother and I said, Mom, I chose the wrong degree. I'm positive about it. I want to go and study psychology. And I remember her, she looked at me, she said, you've been through uni, you know how hard it was, and you want to go back to that? You're crazy, just forget about it. I'm not going to sponsor that. She was completely against it. And I remember like, oh, my mother's being unsupportive or whatnot. But then I came to my senses and I thought, what is it I can do? I already have a degree in computer science. I already have 3 years experience in the job market. What is it I can do within my industry that I can use psychology? And project management became quite naturally the answer for it. After a few months of research, that's kind of the answer I got. So this was my last 10, 20 years of my career has been around project management. And my true calling still today is to help people and organizations helping themselves. This is what I do. Regardless of what my job is, I always try to help people around me or help the organizations that I am to be more efficient, more people to be more proactive and have a bit more common sense. Because I think if I make my life easier, make your life easier, we're all going to do our job in a better way. So about the good bits. What are the good bits about this job? The good bits of one of them that everybody knows these days is it's a good paid, it's a well-paid job. It is. And it has a good market recognition. People that work in IT, if regardless if you are, at the pub and you're talking about yourself, or if you go to the bank to ask for a mortgage or whatever it is, it has a certain status to it. And we are very blessed in the IT industry because unlike other industries, we're very fast forward thinking. We were one of the first industries thinking about flexible working options, working from home, working remotely. Thank God for that, because now we have Corona and we are ready for it. It's an industry, I feel, that I'm always surrounded by smart people. I always have, I like the moment when I'm in the meeting room and I'm not the smartest in the room. I get delighted by that because it means I'm going to learn. I'm going to ask questions and these people are going to feed me with information. And my value there is collating all of that information and finding solutions. and then coming back with options to them. We can talk a bit more about it, but the project managers in the call, they know exactly what I'm talking about. And every project for me is challenging. I really like it. I never had 2 projects which were the same. I have organizations that I work which are similar, but still it's always, every day is novelty. Every day is, it's never boring, never a boring day. And people in IT tend to be pragmatic. I think in other industries that I've worked, I see a lot more politics. In IT, we don't tend to have as much. Even when we work in organizations that are very political, when you come to the IT department, things tend to be less political and more to the point, and more to what can we do to achieve our goals and how we're going to get it, and who has to join forces for this. So before I go to the bad bits, I would like to hear some questions. The bad bits we're going to go to there. So do you have any questions so far? Because I don't like to talk for long. I would like to hear from you. Anything that you want to ask right now. If you want to pop a question.
Well, I have a question, although I don't know whether it's like directly related to what you covered so far, but kind of, because you said that your initial degree was in computer science, yes? I was wondering, because mine is not. I have a literature degree and human resources degree, and whether those are applicable or I should just forget about it.
So there are a lot of courses right now that you can retrain and become different things, from designer if you're more into arts design, and if you are a creative mind, or if you're more oriented to the process, you can become a business analyst. You can become a Scrum Master, project manager if you are an organized person. If you are more of a maths person, you can become a data scientist. And if you're good at sales, IT needs sales. I'm going to talk about it further on. IT needs sales as much. We need everything that other industries do need. We need business developers, managers, we need specialists in the field. So for a person that's not in IT, or for a person that is, so for a person that's not in IT first, for a person that's not in IT and wants to come to IT, I would say just look at yourself and look at what you're good at. And if you don't know what you're good at, ask someone. Your friends usually, or colleagues, are better at telling you what you're good at than yourself. And they will say, oh no, you're very good at this, you know, you're very good at, you know, when everybody's rambling and you just go to the point, you're very good at this. Or, you know, or I don't know, you know, you're very good at crunching numbers. So depends on what you're good at, depending on what you're good, and then you just Google it, you know, training programs, retraining programs into IT. You'll find a bunch of schools that do it in London and outside of London. Some of them are online, and most of them have job guarantee actually. So yeah, there is a very good option. That's one option. The other option is many IT companies, they accept professionals even if they are not coming from a background of IT. A lot of my colleagues, they don't come from IT. They come from real professionals, even architects. I mean, not software architects. I have people that come from sales and they became business analysts. People that come from just arts. They just did a major in arts and they just decided to pursue. Geologists, so many different, because for example, in oil and gas, even if you are in the IT side of things, they need the knowledge from that. So again, if you're a specialist in the field, and maybe there is a tech company or a startup that needs that specific skill set, that's where you fit without even having to retrain.
Okay, thank you very much. I don't want to take more of time for other people.
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you, Magda. Any other questions?
I don't have a question, but I just want to, this is Karina, and I just want to share my experience because I've been a project manager for 10 years now, or over 10 years. And I want to say that I started, my first degree, my university degree was in anthropology sociology. So I don't come from a tech background. However, just like Carla, I had a passion for computers and technology, and just having a curious mind and interest in learning new things has really kind of like kind of directed me in the path of project management, where I really felt like there is it's really satisfying to see a project go through all the phases, and at the end of the project, you have a deliverable and you have something to show for it. Something not necessarily tangible, but it is something that you can say, you know, this is what all of this effort was for. It's quantifiable. It's something that you can, you know, it's yeah, almost tangible. And I worked in marketing for a very long time, and I didn't have the same sort of clarity in the deliverables in that industry as I did as soon as I moved into my initial role as a project coordinator. So as soon as I fell into that role, it kind of found me really. I knew that that's what I wanted to do. So don't feel deterred. Don't think that you have to come from a computer background, or, you know, you can pick all of that up along the way. Like, I learned how to script on the job, you know, it's not a limitation.
Thank you.
Thank you. And just Karina or Katrina? Sorry, I want to say your name.
Karina, yeah, Karina. Sorry, I can't change my name.
No, it's fine. I just, yeah, Karina. So, yeah, Karina, I think you touched a very good point. I think in the IT industry, people, if you're coming from a different industry, people are not expecting you to jump on the job and do miracles. You know, they are very, at least the people that I work with or teams, if I have someone that is junior on the role or is just shifting careers, we put people alongside of that person and we do knowledge transfer for a period of time, especially if you're a permanent. I work as a consultant, so for me it's slightly different. But as a permanent member of staff, I would say you would have around 3 to 6 months of adjustment as an adjustment period, which people expect you to just ramp up slowly until you're up the level. And it's more than enough, depending on the complexity of the job.
Yeah.
Thank you, ladies.
Anyone else would like to add something? We have people from different backgrounds here, or different levels in the organization. Anything you guys would like to add?
Yeah, when we're interviewing, we quite often say we're interviewing for attitude rather than skills. It'd be a lie to say we don't care about skills, but it's the communication that really, really makes the difference. Coding is pretty easy. I'm a sound engineer by, I see in the background, what I did at university, and then a degree in UX, and I've been coding for 20 plus years now. It's the communication, being able to share ideas, because actually very little of it is sitting down at a computer and bashing out code. That if you're doing that, you're doing it wrong. It's how you're going to build things. That's the more important bit. So if anyone is worried, if you're not from a tech background, about that, those skills can be learned, but the communication thing is actually the harder bit.
Thank you, Kevin. That's so important, right? The way you said about attitude. Yeah, I don't code for 16 years, but I still, the logical thinking is the same. To solve a problem, it's the way you think, how you solve a problem.
Which is incredibly annoying to our partners.
Yes. Logic says.
Have to be a vulcan.
Anyone else would like to add to this? I think it's really enriching if we hear each other's, perspectives on the topic.
Well, I can add sort of my experience. So I don't have a degree. I pulled out of university because I had a brainwave business idea that I wanted to pursue, which got nowhere at all and failed miserably. And then I got my first job sort of through someone I knew, and then got into coding professionally through that. And my experience of software development interviews has been that you'll be given a coding test, and that's usually a big part of it. And not many hiring managers I've met really care how you learnt to code, whether it was you went to a prestigious university or you did it you worked out in your bedroom or whatever. Obviously, if you go to a prestigious university and you do a computer science course, then you will be a very good developer at the end of it. But how you got there is less important in IT industry. You don't see people lusting after Oxford and Cambridge candidates in the same way as you might do in other industries. So I think the proof is in now. In a lot of development interviews, they'll give you a small coding test and ask you to write a small application, and that will be it. It's based on the real what your ability is. I think also attitude important, as other people have said, but certainly my experience of full-time software development roles has been purely based on your ability, and that is an ability you can learn yourself. It's certainly achievable. So I wouldn't feel if someone's wanting to move into IT that they need to go and get a degree in a relevant subject first. I don't think if you've got bills to pay, that's the best way forward. But so certainly that's been my experience.
Thank you. And do we have anyone here from like a management position I heard someone was a CTO. I heard other people were project managers, agile coaches. Anyone else would like to give their opinion from another perspective?
Well, I think what I'd add to that, as someone who's done quite a bit of hiring, I think, looking at the negative side, I think sometimes in the industry there is, a demand for, okay, we want someone with a degree in this, or we want someone with X years of experience in that, and lots of very much, required, requirements for jobs, and that's almost never the right thing to do. And if I look, some of the people I've hired have been from, if you like, non-traditional backgrounds. The best manager I ever hired doesn't have a degree, and I think this is where diversity is very much that multidimensional thing, because it's very much around the background. It's where people come from. It's what they bring to the table. I think the hiring part has to take that into account, and unfortunately, I think that is something that a lot of places still get wrong, because you want to see what people can bring to the organization, know what ticks in the box they have on a resume.
Yeah. Yes, that's so important, and it ties up with attitude and logical thing, the way people think, the way they structure the thought process and their communication as well. So thank you for that. Maybe one last opinion before we move to the next slide.
Hi everyone.
Hi.
For me, I don't have a traditional IT background. I'm a project manager by trade. But what I find very frustrating is if you want to get into the IT industry, or you want to change from if you want to change from like a project manager to a product manager or to a scrum master or something, it's really, really challenging, because the way the agencies, the way they structure the job spec, it's impossible. They are looking for everything and anything, and you can't find a lot of the things in the one person. Job hiring generally, I think the way the agencies interface with prospective job applicants, I think they're doing it the wrong way round. Because I say that because one, I don't think they get the correct requirements from the hiring managers, or the hiring managers do not explicitly explain what they're looking for. So you end up looking for a Scrum Master, but the job spec says project manager. And also another thing I find is, like, for example, trying to get into like the whole software development Scrum Master role, you don't need to be a developer or know how to code to be able to be a good Scrum Master. But you find out that organizations are looking for technical people, but at the same time, they're looking for people that can interface with people and do the job of a Scrum Master. So it's quite contradictory the way hiring is done, and which I find a bit frustrating, because it makes transition from one place, from one sector of IT to another, a bit impossible, because you are at a level within your current position, and obviously they have to look at some of the transferable skills, which sometimes I feel that they overlook, because they're looking for somebody that is advanced within the new role, but not willing to give you a chance to be able to step up to that role. That's what I find in a lot of, I mean, in my journey within IT. So if you're good at something, they box you within that thing, and they make onward promotion or moving sideways in another thing very, very difficult and challenging.
Yeah, I understand what you're trying to say. I think there are two sides, or many sides for what you mentioned there. It could almost be another topic, which is about how to sell yourself, how to promote yourself, and also how to not fall into the trick of getting hired for something that you don't want to do. Sometimes that happens. I've been in that situation where I was hired and I got there after 2 days. I said, "I'm sorry, this is not the role for me. You know, this is all, either the role is oversold or undersold." I wouldn't say it's anyone's fault. I don't think it's the agency's fault, because the agency is just the messenger, and we're being sponsored by an agency. I'm joking, but the agency is just the messenger, right? The recruiter gets requirements from this side. It has to find people on the other end. Companies sometimes they don't know what to ask for. You're absolutely right on that one. Unfortunately, the hiring managers sometimes are under a lot of pressure to just deliver a new program or a new product, and they just know that they need one person, one project manager, 3 scrum masters, and they just want to tick the boxes because there is a lot of pressure. So they don't have time to think. They don't have time to inform themselves of what the best skill set is. Then they just pressure the recruiter by, you know, it's a snowball effect. That's the first aspect. The second aspect of this is, if you want to change careers, if you want to change career for anything else, we are the ones that are responsible for finding our transferable skills. And sometimes if we don't know them, the answer is, again, find someone that helps you doing that. There are people that write CVs. There are people that, even your friends, if you have a friend that is in that job, you just ask them, "What do you do?" And they're, "Oh, you do that. Oh, I know how to do that. I know how to do that." And you just rewrite your CV in with those transferable skills, because only CVs that pass the robot these days get in front of the recruiter. So if your transferable skills are not written on the paper, they will not hit the robot. You'll never get in front of the recruiter. And then it's about knowing yourself. And I applied for different roles at different times. Sometimes I apply for project manager, program manager, scrum master, and I have different versions of my CV. I never lie in any of my CVs. I don't need to. But maybe when I'm applying for project management, I focus on things that are related to project management, like, I don't know, for example, reporting, or being able to, report to senior management and all of those things, right? Hold workshops. And Scrum Master is more the capacity of leading a small team and a capacity of being agile. How do I coach people? How do I mentor them? How do I keep up with technology? So, and I'm never lying, because I actually did all of those things, but I have separate versions of my CV for whatever I want to target. But it's an excellent point that you brought in there. So the people that want to penetrate into IT, they have to have this in mind. Yeah.
I actually want to kind of reinforce what Pamela just said here, because I have also, this is my personal experience, so I might be biased, but for over 1.5 years, I have, my CV was apparently, ticking the boxes in order to get in front of the hiring managers, and then to go through the loop to make the transition from a project manager into a product manager role. However, the outcome was pretty much, I mean, I would say I've had about 20-30 interviews over the last year just to try to make that transition. And it seemed like product management in particular is it is a different career than project management. So I think that's important to acknowledge. And the requirements are quite different in the way that, a product manager approaches their responsibilities and requirements versus a project manager. But even with a product management certification, having taken a boot camp course, thinking that would be actually helping me get over that, threshold, it truly seems like experience is the only thing that would actually let somebody put their trust into somebody that does not have product manager in their previous title on the CV, which kind of what Pamela was saying, it's fairly disheartening, because while you can make all of the transferable skills and you can showcase your experience and having worked very closely with product managers, it still seems like it's a high risk for hiring managers to take that leap of faith and actually put their trust into somebody who has not held that role before. So how is that, you know, I know that, you know, had I come from an engineering background, had I come from a more computer science background, that bias would probably not, or that bridge would not be quite as, like, you know, scripting languages, and my background is technical, but not technical to that level. I think it's a harder leap to make for hiring managers. So how do we bridge that gap?
So you work in an organization as a project manager right now, yeah?
I'm working, yes. I've been a project manager for 10 years, yeah.
So what I would advise, and again, I don't know your full background, but what I would recommend, or what I would do if I was in your shoes, I would go to my manager and I would say, this is my strategy. I need to get experience as a product owner. Where are the product owners? Or even I would go to a product owner and I would just sit next up and say, can you mentor me? Can I shadow you? And I would say the same to my manager. So I'll put in my goals for the year that I want to shadow this person in order to learn their skill set. There will be a time when that person will go on holidays and will take over for a week or a month, doesn't matter. You learn a bit, right? So then maybe the next smaller project or something, you can do partnership. You can do, oh, why don't I do these tasks for you? Yeah. And this is not about stealing the other person's job. This is about you getting ready for the future. And when it comes, you are there. Because I know what you're saying. When you go to the market, it's all about experience. So sometimes we need to use our roles, the rules that are given to us right now. And that's how I stepped into project management. I'll talk about it later. Because also I was a software developer, and after being in this industry for long, I saw people which, after I had already like 5 or 6 years experience, people were still struggling. People around me were still struggling to get into project management. The difference between me and that was a strategy. I looked at it and I knew that I could not go from, especially when you're 26, you can't go from software development to project manager. No one was going to give you the job unless you've done it before. So it's all about how do you convince people, how do you sell your skill set, and you convince people to help you get there. And a lot of that is tied with good mentor, which can be your manager or someone else in the company. Having a good mentor helps, and having also the company sponsoring you, because obviously you have your day job. They have to know that a part of your day or your part of your work is that 10%, 5% doesn't matter, right? Does this make sense to you?
It really does. And I will say that while I have received the support in gaining the experience, I don't think that the concern is really the experience. It literally has been, you know, the fact that I have not held the role before. So it's, you know, we can move on from this topic because this is not about me, but I'm just saying that what Pamela said resonated with me in the sense that it is a very, like, project management seemed like a much easier position to step into to me and to other project managers that I've worked with than it is to make the switch from project to product, which again, very different roles.
You're right, and especially because the demand is higher in project management. The number of roles, when you find one product owner, you'll find 200, 300 project managers. But yes, you're right. Let's keep on the topic. Ping me on LinkedIn after this, and I'm very happy to have a chat with you about it.
Great.
Is that okay?
Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, and this goes for everybody, by the way. So we spoke about the good bits. Let's go to the bad bits. And bad bits are that the percentage of women in IT are very low. You guys know, you've sat in the office. I usually count the number of women that I see in my floor. So my average is 4, 4 in 100. And I think the reason why this is happening is because girls are not encouraged to take tasks that are challenging. I've heard recently, and it shocked me because it's 2020, that a friend of a friend, his girl was thinking about like his baby girl was thinking to pursue either math or arts, and the father was like, no, the parents was just like, go to arts because math are really difficult. And I think if someone is smart enough, if a female is smart enough to decide that she wants math, if she gets this encouraged at such a low age, such as 10, 12, 13, obviously she will never look into it again. This goes for a lot of other things, but this is very important when it comes to IT, because IT is all about logical thinking. So it's better if you pick something that has to do with engineering. If not, obviously you can always retrain in the future. Your brain will always think the same way. Our brains are wired to think the way our personality thinks. So this is one of the reasons that I believe personally is why don't we have more women in IT, is because women are very highly disencouraged to do anything that has to do with challenge. In my case, I was fortunate enough of being brought in a family where I did everything. So I could be in the kitchen with my mother, or I could be fixing the car with my father. There was never a difference. So I never understood the difference between being male or female. My parents never gave me pink skirts or stuff like that. So I think I was quite, fortunate in that sense. But obviously most people, when they have girls, they start calling them princesses, and then they make them, there's this pinkification, which I'll talk about in a second, which is the portrait of the perfect woman. And this makes women think that they have to be something. They have to be pretty, they have to be thin, they have to be sexually appealing. And sexual appeal, if you want to be appealing to a man, you cannot look masculine. And engineering has the stamp of masculinity still in it, still today. And this is something, it's a stigma that needs to be, brushed off, and it has to start whoever has, I'm not a parent, but if you're a parent, it starts by, letting your female girls do whatever your male boys are doing. If they want to break their knees, let them break their knees. If they want to study math, let them study math. So just don't say, oh, you can't do this because you're thinking, oh, she's a girl, I should protect her. Okay, and so why is this happening? So this is what we were talking about. From the early age, the girls are highly disencouraged to become anything to do with challenge, being like math, science, anything that's happening around that. Girls are completely disencouraged. So 1 in each 20 girls, according to this study, pursue a STEM subject. This is science, technology, engineering, and math. And 1 in 5 boys will do the same. More numbers, which are quite interesting. So this compares women in tech and women in engineering in 10 years. And if you look at it, you have an increase in numbers. So there were 124, and then it's 180. By the way, this is our numbers in the UK. So in 2009, there were about 124K women in IT, and in 10 years later, 180K. It looks like the number has increased, but compared with the amount of professionals, the growth of the industry, it hasn't even grown 1 percentage point. This is 0.7% more in 10 years. Despite the fact that IT is a well-paid job and it has a lot of security around it, and if you get a job in IT, you're safe for life, same as engineering jobs. But for some reason, IT is not very appealing to women. Women in this compares to women in engineering, their numbers have practically doubled, but the percentage also, it's almost doubled, which is much better than this one, depending on the job. But some engineering jobs, you can be biochemist, engineer. So it's not considered a masculine job. And I think that's the reason why when picking, and remember when we pick university, when we pick our degrees, we're quite young, right? We're 17, we're 18. Most of us don't know what they want for life, I think I'm an exception. The fact that I knew at a very early age, I don't think I am the average person. I think Right now, I know less about what I want for my life than when I was 15. But at that time, for some reason, I knew that this was for me. So my personal experience in IT, I think hard work and discipline always pays off. I don't think being a woman should be an excuse to work less or more. I know that there is a hard debate in the market about women working more than men and earning less than men. I don't think those numbers are the same in IT. I personally never felt the gender gap when it comes to payment. So I think I earn the same as my male colleagues. I might be wrong. The numbers might tell me wrong. I tried to Google, didn't go to a proper conclusion, so I don't have those numbers in here. But respect comes from self. What do I mean by this? I mean that if I respect myself and if I know how to be assertive, how to say the right things at the right time, people tend to respect me. And obviously, we have a learning curve. I need to know my stuff, because if I know my stuff, people will respect me. And I don't expect favors from anyone. Again, I don't expect favors because I'm a woman, and I don't expect the opposite of that. And don't be afraid of asking questions. I don't know if you noticed this, like when I opened the call in the beginning, and I said, who wants to introduce themselves? And all the men were like, tun, tun, no offense, boys. And all the men were like, tun, 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 tun. And only when I asked, are there women on the call, then you raise your voices. This happens in every single meeting that I am. Women are very afraid of voicing their opinions. I don't know why, but we are very, very much, we think 3 times before we voice our opinion. And obviously, I also took my time to understand when to talk and when not to. But we are not smarter than men. Men are not smarter than us. Its brain is not based on sex. Our brain is based only on the physical and chemical elements that are in it, and the way it's wired makes us more or less smart. That's it. So whenever you feel like you need to talk, just voice your opinion, because otherwise you won't be noticed in the room. And that is a problem if you want a career progression. So some of the biggest challenges, and someone is saying, your daughter is going to go to uni, and you want to convince her to come into IT. One of my biggest challenges was convincing my parents that I wanted to go into IT, and that IT wasn't the boogeyman. IT wasn't like this thing, this black hole that I'm going to go and I'm never going to see you by. It was very challenging for me to convince them, because everybody around me was either not going to uni, or if they were, they would become teachers. And all of my life, I heard my grandparents say, oh, you're so smart, you can become a teacher. And my parents thought, oh, you're so smart, you can work at the local factory, you can be a manager there. And I was thinking, my God, that's horrible. I don't like it. I know what I want. And I already had done my secondary school in IT, so I already knew how to code. I already knew what this stuff was all about. I knew how hard it was. I had physics, I had maths, I had all the hard topics. And I thought, I can do it. Why not? And I think still today, a lot of girls, I read articles that say exactly this, that girls still struggle. If you don't come from a family of engineers, you will struggle convincing your parents to pursue an engineering or an IT career. So with this said, I want to open the floor again, because I'm tired of hearing my own voice. And I would like also, I think maybe you guys have some questions, guys and girls have some questions. So I'm opening the floor for a bit.
Just what you said about the way that people are directed into different educational paths. I sort of dropped out of school when I was quite young, and ended up going to engineering college. And I remember having a drink with one of my engineering lecturers, and we were like a bunch of knuckle dragging sort of 17-year-old boys, and like there were no girls on the course, and asking sort of why. And he was like, if you're at school and you're good at maths, they direct all the girls towards business. And like the guy was just sort of like tearing his hair out, like, I get you guys, you stupid pubescent idiots, and like we were basically the dropouts. We were the people that had went into engineering because we knew about sort of like play around with engines or something like that at some point. But the people who are really, really good at maths were directed into business. And like a lot of the girls at school that were good at maths went off into business studies and things, when the really, really interesting maths was in engineering. And he was pulling his hair out about it. And so that was 25 plus years ago now. So it's been going on a long time. Yeah.
Yeah, it is amazing. It is amazing. I still think it's the same today. Well, I'm not sure how universities are, moving or influencing or the students to go to left or right. But yeah, there is this stigma. I remember when I studied, I had 3 more girls in my class. It was a class of so there were 2 separate classes combined of 60 odd people, and we were 3 or 4 in our group. So very low numbers.
As I went from mechanical engineering to audio and electronic engineering, it went from no girls to maybe 1 or 2 girls to my media related electronics. There being, out of 50 or 60 people on the course, there being maybe 5 or 6 girls. So, and I don't know if it was the shift because it was more media related had done it, but yeah, it was really bad, the mechanical engineering. And the only reason I had that relationship with the engineering lecturer was because my sister had gone through and done mechanical engineering. She's still a mechanical engineer, but yeah, it's really bad, that side of things. So I think we might be better off in software than we are if you go into sort of mechanical engineering.
Yeah, of course, because that's a stigma. I remember you said electrical engineer. Our electrical engineer course was like 200 guys.
Yeah.
No, I haven't seen a woman there in the whole 3 years that I was there. It was just the class of my year. There were no girls at all. And again, stigma. Electrical engineer, electrician. What's the first image that pops into your brain when I say electrician? A guy. Mechanical engineer, mechanic. What's the first image? A guy. So that's
their career guidance. They were told, you're good at maths. If you're good at maths, you should go into business, not into the subjects where actually, math. I don't want to downplay maths in business, because as soon as you've got a pound sign near something, I don't understand it. But maths in business is a lot of formulas and things, but maths in engineering is working things out and actually understanding and being able to apply them in different ways. And people were like their career guidance was to go the wrong way, sort of like to almost the easy option. Is not fair from the start.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not sure how things are now. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, I think it's deeper than just stigma. I mean, it's, if you look at career choices, like you could look at the opposite and see how many teachers are men or how many nurses are men. I mean, it's very much a societal thing that separates men into specific roles, and we just don't feel comfortable, letting, or rather encouraging boys and girls from a young age into or rather to do things outside of what is considered a boy thing or a girl thing. You don't see too many boys, in a ballet class either, or gymnastics. And so I think that it's much deeper than just, oh, don't do that because it's not feminine. It's really because we just see them as male dominated industries and female dominated industries, and that's what we think would be a better fit. And the road into those industries is actually quite challenging, and it is quite challenging to stay in these industries because of the low representation. And now we're talking about diversity. Well, diversity doesn't happen by itself. It happens by understanding that somebody comes from a background that might not be matching 1-to-1, but seeing the potential for growth and the potential for learning and expanding their knowledge and giving that person a chance. And that's what happened with me and a lot of the women that I work with. So that's just, I studied anthropology, sociology, so I'm sorry, but I just couldn't go there. I couldn't stop myself.
That's good. That's good. And I think there is, interestingly enough, some of the people that I work, they come from India. And one of these days I was making a comment like, oh, a girl said to me, oh, there are so many men in the office. And I said, yes. Did you not do uni? And she said, yes, I did, but it wasn't like this. So we had a chat, and apparently she was quite young. So when she went to uni, the class was very balanced. It was like 50-50, men and women.
Yeah.
So she was very shocked that coming to the UK, she was seeing so many men. And I was shocked with what she said, because India is considered a third world country. What are they doing that we are not? How can we learn, right? So yes, there is something there to be, food for thought.
Yeah. I'm really sorry, everyone, but I have to drop off. It was lovely meeting everyone, and I'll definitely join other sessions, but I have another meeting now. So.
Lovely. Thank you so much, Karina. Join us next time. Thank you.
Thanks, Karina. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. So anyone else would like to say something?
Yeah. For me, coming from I'm originally from Nigeria. For us, it's either you're a doctor, a lawyer, an engineer, or something professional, or you're a failure. So saying that, it's actually highly influenced the way you thought about your future, what you're going to do, what you're going to become, and the kind of courses that you would take. So you find that you find a lot of educated people in Nigeria. The average person has a master's degree, mainly because of the way we are pushed and the way we are, because education is a big thing, and it's your access, or your way out of certain things or situations and things like that. So as a woman, you were not necessarily discouraged from going to, do the engineering course, as long as the way it stands is, as long as you do a professional course. And for us, professional courses are really, really different from what we see here. So it's things like being a lawyer and all that kind of a thing. So that in itself sort of like shapes the way we study. Then also we have the traditional female roles as well, or courses with like nursing and things like that, which you would hardly find men do. So coming to the UK, for me, it was a whole different ball game, because now, obviously I had my degree, by the way, which was in communication. I just defied every rule that my parents set, kind of thing. So I came in, studied communication, but I found out that quickly I needed to be able to assert myself in the job market for reasons that I probably wouldn't want to go into right now, right? And that was the only way I would actually get my CV seen, in terms of, at least I need a UK degree. Otherwise, I had been getting a lot of rejections despite the fact, I'm sorry, I have a baby with me, despite the fact that, I had the professional qualifications. So for me, it's been a different struggle entirely. Even though I have a UK degree, it's been a whole different ballgame in terms of IT as well. And in terms of the way I've had to position myself, the kind of training I've had to give myself, the kind of things that I've had to do in terms of how to put myself out there and make my CV stand out and things like that, which has been a bit different from other people's experiences, I guess, but for me, it's not been, it's been bittersweet. It's been good and it's been bad. It's been everything all together. But honestly, in terms of IT, I found out that, that was the easiest profession I could get into that could make a quick difference for me, because there were so many professional courses out there you could do that could immediately at least get you a look in without spending too much money and too much time having to retrain yourself in a degree. So that was that was sort of my strategy in terms of getting into IT. But getting your foot into IT is one thing, and being able to get the kind of positions, you want to get despite your experience is another, it's a whole nother topic for discussion, at least from my perspective and everything. So that has been my experience so far, which I don't know what every other person's experience has been. But as a female and as a Black person in the UK, it's been a good and a bad experience in some aspects. You know, because I've walked into offices and I was literally, well, there were 3 females, but I was the only Black person, which I found very uncomfortable, you know. So and apart from that, I also worked there and I had a boss that, because I was more qualified than her in everything, you know, in terms of my CV and knowledge and everything, she found it very, very intimidating. And the whole bullying and everything started, you know. But I'm not one to be bullied and I'm not one to be silenced. And I took action and everything. But as I said, that has been my experience in a nutshell. Thank you.
You're absolutely right there saying, well, I think, well, obviously I'm white, as you can see in the picture attached, but having worked with a female, Black female, and Indian female, and Asian female as a brother, race. I feel like Indian women, they get it easier than Black women for some reason, I don't know. And I've seen racism happening next to me in the office. It's a hard topic. It's another topic again. Well done, because it takes, if it's hard as a woman, as a Black woman, it's harder. So you have to be really strong and really tough. So well done, and really thank you for sharing it. It's a good example, and I hope it inspires other people as well to just step up. That's it. Thank you.
I just wanted to add, if I may, sure. Carla. I was just saying, like on the topic of diversity, I actually think software engineering in particular is like one of the easiest occupations to get into, based on principles such as, you know, with a book and pen and paper, you could, I mean, I can become a pretty good programmer. I don't think there are occupations out there like that you can just pick up a book, pen and paper, and just spend as long as you want and work at it. Like a lot of professions, a lot of occupations, they require, like in business, there are ridiculous things like MBAs, and like, you know, people who, I just like bouncing off what I think Pamela said in regards to IT being quite an easy access industry. So for that reason, I think it bodes well for diversity. I don't really buy into the whole aspect of it being a high barrier of entry industry, because I got into it without, and so yeah.
I think the barrier is more mental. It's more about the perception before you get in than actually being in there. It's what I think what Chris was saying, that his daughter thinks that IT is just for geeks, therefore she will never, get into that thing. So it's something that needs to change, the way the image of IT. I think with certain startups make it look more hip and more fun, so they are capturing the right talent. But bigger structures, they still do it the old way. And if you don't appeal, if you don't open your doors and show what actually it looks like, it looks like any other office, by the way, and people are still people. If we don't break that, then it will never change. And also, obviously, there are other things which I have further in the presentation, like engineering jobs are also very tied to the army. For example, IT started in the army, and because it started in the army, and the first people that were there were men, then therefore IT is very correlated to men. And it has this tag around it of being for very smart people, and then for kind of a different breed of people. And that is the image that needs to be broken. And it's being broken down by these academies where you bring kids to code, or these academies where you specifically bring girls to code. That's they break the stigma. But I think there's still a lot to do when it comes to this field of diversity. And by diversity, I mean literally everyone. Goes to the LGBTA, whatever, plus something plus. I can't say all the day, but I mean, the diversity is everything. Like, I'm talking as a woman, but we have to include everybody from every single background because it enriches the teams. And I just noticed we passed the hour, so Humash, I have to ask you, are we allowed to stay a bit longer? And obviously everybody that's on the call, are you,
yeah, of course. Yeah, we've got the time. If anybody has any more questions, then feel free to share. If not, then yeah, we can end it here. But yeah, as I say, if you've got any more questions, then yeah, please do ask away. No.
Well, I'll just add very quickly. So I think going back to what Pamela was saying, that I think sometimes people have a bit of a prejudice barrier, certainly against people sometimes towards skin color and also to gender in IT. But I think so. I think the situation as it is at the moment, I don't say this is because it's a good thing, but I think the realistic situation is that people expect. So if a developer sits down and and they're not the traditional, looks like me, sort of nerdy white guy, they're expected to kind of prove themselves a bit harder than perhaps if a sort of a young white guy sat down. And once the situation we have now is once you've overcome that barrier, which shouldn't exist, once you've overcome that barrier, then you might find yourself on a much closer level playing field. But we still have that initial barrier to sort of prove yourself if you don't fit the mold exactly. Probably in the way that a male midwife might be expected to prove himself a little bit more. So I think that's the situation we're at, and that's where HR and hiring process, if they have a bit of a prejudice barrier like that, then obviously people might not get the job that they otherwise are qualified for. So I think that's kind of what I've seen in terms of prejudice in the workplace, and that's something to be sort of know about. And it's for hiring processes to try and overcome that as much as they can.
Yeah, that's such a good idea. So one of the solutions that is proposed for this is completely kind of hiding the name and the race and all of that from the CV. So you would just have like a number, and so that you can see the CV without a bias. And then when you select the people that are going to go for example, first round, at least you might not give them the opportunity to go to the second round, but at least they sat on the first one. Because even I had a lot of training about conscious bias. I noticed my bias because I did training, and I might still do it every now and then. But sometimes being in the hiring process, and when I need people from my team, just from the name, I know where you come from. Or from your last name, I know if it's Europe or if it's Nigeria, we're saying, or if it's even in Europe, certain last names, they're just from certain countries. So yes, it's and that triggers the unconscious bias. Yes, it does. From all of my experience, I think I'm not being racist, but I've never worked with a black developer. I worked with Indian, white, Asian. Yes. So if I see one, I think I have to. If I wasn't trained, I would think, oh my God, no. But I know that it's just a person, doesn't matter. But most people they're not trained like this. So what do we do, right? How do we break this? How does the hiring process stop the person? If I'm a hiring manager and I haven't been trained, how does the HR process help me filter the right people and not let me be led by my unconscious bias? So yeah, it's one of the solutions is just hiding the information about the person, the CV at least. So yeah, just if we have a bit more time.
One thing we talked about bias from kind of outwards, so people in the company's bias about hiring and things like that. But what about, so we went through a process of recruitment recently, and it's one of those awful things as a middle-aged white developer from a Western country, and we had to have conversations around diversity, and so we were talking about the percentage of people, and we had, I think, less than, it was well under 10% of the people in our pipeline were female coming into the company. So outside of a company, what what are people looking for? What would make that company more attractive? Because actually, we spent a lot of time on our internal processes, our internal recruitment. I've done a lot of training with Mind to make our recruitment process to more inclusive. People with mental health issues. I suffer mildly from anxiety and things like that, and it's a very tough process to go through. So we've done a lot of work around that. But actually, if you've got the pipeline that's only got 6% coming through female, there's not a huge amount we can do. So what are people looking for from a company?
You mean how can you attract more female talent, or how can you become more attractive, or
yeah, what puts people off? What could we be doing that? I believe that I'm not long with this company, but I believe the company is actually quite inclusive and things. But actually,
from the bit that I've experienced and that I read, there is this culture which exists in other industries as well. Okay, but in IT there is this culture of the boys' club. You know that I was calling it the mucho machismo. Like everybody's like, oh, I know so much about this, and the other guy, no, I know a lot more than you do. And I've been in these meetings, but because I grew with them, I did uni with them, I kind of know how to handle it. But if I'm coming as a new person that's never seen these things, this is very scary. So what happens is that a lot of women that actually go into IT, they tend to drop off and move to another industry after the first year. So this is one of the reasons why women just stay away from, I don't want to be in, if I can work with another industry, I will. To become more appealing, things like this, meet the real people, do an event just for women in IT, and make sure that or tap into the women in IT tech, women in IT networks. There are many of them, women in tech, women in this, women in IT awards. Tap in those non-profit or those groups, and maybe do an event with them so that you can promote your company. You say, look, this is what we do. We want to bring more women, and these are the kind of roles we are looking for. Maybe you'll find one in one meetup or in one webinar or something like that. I think it's all about putting yourself out there, but I'm being very specific what this means. And it's about putting your brand in the market and partnering with the right, in this case, the right suppliers. You touched something about procurement. When you give your procurement to like if you're hiring, I don't know, one of the big four and you want a team, then if you want women, you can put numbers there. Say 50% of my team has to be women, and then they have a goal, or 50% they have to diversity. I wanted to put it like this, 30% this, and it might sound wrong that we are forcing the numbers to be like that, but if we keep forcing them, then the market will wake up at one point, and things that, like what someone was saying before, maybe women, instead of being diverted to business, they start being diverted to engineering jobs because the market is asking for it. And there are studies that prove when you have women in top management, the revenue of the company increases. So the numbers are there. Maybe because the macho culture softens it. I notice in my teams, like when we have a balance of women, we learn to listen to each other more. We become a bit more calm. The group, the team becomes a bit more calm. There is more consideration for each other. And this kind of opens our minds to listen to other people's opinions and maybe creating better outcomes. So that might be one of the reasons. So yeah, that would be my suggestion for you. I don't know if anyone else has a suggestion as well.
Cool, thank you.
But I was going to say, if anybody has any more questions, we'll probably get through them. But if not, I think we're coming up to like an hour and a half now. So no more questions from anybody else for Carla?
One last one, please. I think mine has to do more with the way recruitment is. I know I've said something about it before, but in terms of like the agencies, what I find a bit confusing is sometimes you put your CV forward and the job spec is so vague, really, really vague. So you really do not know what they're looking for or what they are asking for. There is the job title, which could mean, and to be very honest, I know there are job titles, and job titles guide you as to what to, recruit for, but some of the job titles just mean nothing. Some of them just look like made up job titles, for whatever reason. So mine is one, what in the mind of a recruiter, like you get the job spec, you get the requirement from the company or whoever, the client, but is it not the recruiter's job to understand what the client is looking for and therefore interpret it in such a way that when it gets onto JobServe or whatever, it looks half decent? Because you're manipulating your CV to be able to fit into a role that, one, doesn't tell you anything. Then you don't get calls from the recruiters, or when you finally get calls from the recruiters, they ask you for your CV, ask you to tweak it, and you don't hear anything back from them again. And I think that is a big lax in the whole recruitment cycle thing, because you're putting forward your CV, you're not getting feedback, you're not getting responses, despite the fact that they have put your CV before a hiring manager. So I don't know if anybody can explain how that can be, the relationship between the recruiters and people, job seekers, that gap can be closed, or something needs to change within the whole recruitment space.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say from sort of personal experience, in an ideal world, you'd have, when we speak to companies that really know exactly what they're looking for, they'll tell us straight up. They can be very specific. And so, once we have that information, and that information is for us, that makes it from our job to then go out and find exactly what they want. In an ideal world, we'll know everything, but it never really is, or not very often we'll say that it's ideal. From a business, you can have needs crop up. You can have a position, somebody leave, and then that needs to be filled, or you can have other business needs that come up, that roles need to change very quickly, as I'm sure like a lot of you guys within the industry probably are very much aware, given you're in these management roles, that you'll know it's never just as black and white as we need this role, this is what this person needs to have, go out and find that person. Because even if in the space of a week, potentially you might realize that, that you don't need I need that specific role, maybe it'll be something else. So I'd say a lot of the time, we will try and find out as much information as possible, because it makes the entire process easy, especially from our side, if we know exactly what it is that we're looking for. But sometimes it's not. Sometimes the companies don't quite know, or it's a very it's a very last minute kind of situation where someone has recently left. And yeah, I do understand from your point of view, it can be maybe come across as all the entire recruitment industry is broken, but I'd say that a lot of the recruiters, especially from where we are, and a lot of the recruiters that I know, the ones that are good at their jobs are the ones that find out as much information as possible, or have good relationships with hiring managers, and sort of understand the industry that they're in. Because you can get told all the information by a hiring manager, but if you don't understand what that is specifically, the technologies or the actual skills, then it's hard for you to convey. So yeah, I do understand where you're coming from, but it's never really as black and white as it's always down to us, or it's always down to the company for not giving out the information. Sometimes it's just not there, and then it's just doing the best with what you can, so yeah, I do sort of see where you're coming from, but not all recruiters are the bad guys, and not all the hiring managers are the bad guys either. But yeah, there does need to be, as long as there's some sort of relationship there, and there's some like decent exchange of information between those two businesses, then it works out well. But it's never always an ideal situation, unfortunately. But yeah, I mean that's from my perspective. I don't know if any of the hiring managers in here feel any different. That's just how we sort of come across.
Well, my experience as a candidate, I've not worked in in recruitment, but my experience as a candidate, if you apply for a vague role, I think often they're just trying to get hold of your CV, because I've found if I've applied for quite a vague role and I've been a bit not very confident that, you know, really suitable for the role because it's so vague. And then they've said, oh yeah, thanks for that. And then later they've come back to me and said, oh, well, we have your CV on file. You know, what about this job? So I think sometimes potentially a very vague job description, it's just trying to get hold of a load of, you know, people who are applying for jobs. I think sometimes it's not about a specific role as such. That's certainly my perspective.
Yeah, I think oh, go ahead, sorry.
In addition to what the last person said, there are companies that are pretty much looking to fire someone, and so they preemptively put out a job spec. And so, yeah, like having a vague job spec could be an indicator for them looking to get rid of someone and then put you in their position. In that.
That's interesting. I think on top of that, and because mostly I work for big companies, we don't have time. We have half an hour to put a job spec together and send it to the recruiter. If we get an hour, it's amazing. So that's the issue, and it has to be done by, you know, yesterday. And then I said that to 3, 4, 5 recruitment companies, and, you know, kind of fishing. And, well, you know, it's yeah. I understand everything should be ideal, but unfortunately, it's not how it works. I think smaller companies, they tend to have more time to think about what they want, what the rule wants, what the rule needs. But I think sometimes, depending on the project and depending if you're hiring permanent or contract or, yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty much that's it in a nutshell, really. The smaller companies can spend a lot more time, especially considering that you know, you tend to be a lot closer. There's a lot more interaction between sort of everyone in the business. Within the smaller company, they can spend a bit more time finding, you know, exactly who they want. And then the larger companies, as you say, you don't really get much time at all to get the recruitment side done. And then you've got targets that you need to hit, or you need to get positions filled by a certain amount of time. Obviously, you're doing your job as well. So yeah, I understand from that point of view, it's quite difficult sometimes, but I'd say the good recruiters are the ones that you'll have a relationship with anyway, and they'll kind of know a little bit about you specifically. So if that is, you know, if there is the case, then they'll normally just come straight to you for, you know, for a role that they'll think that you're perfect for. So it kind of works both ways, I guess, from that point. Did anybody else have any other questions for Carla at all? I just realised we've gone quite a bit over time.
If not, I would like to thank everybody for your contributions. And I think this became a bit of an unconference because I think I didn't do a third of my slides, but it was really valuable. It was really valuable. It's more interesting when you get the opinion from different people that have, you know, they enrich the story instead of just me telling my own story, which, okay, it's just one story. Then we got to listen to many different perspectives. So I really enjoyed it. I want to thank you for the invitation so much, and I really look forward to attend to others just listening. And that's it. And if you have any questions for me, if you can drop me a text or ping me a message on LinkedIn. I think you have my LinkedIn on the post that you know, the guys have put. So yeah, that's it from my end. Really appreciate. Really big thanks, everybody.
Thank you very much, Carla. As we said, I'll put all of these up on YouTube as well. We will be looking to do more talks in the coming weeks, and as I say, we've got a load of other talks going on as well. So if you want to go onto our community page, that'll all be on the Meetup website as well. Just feel free to join. They're all free to sign up to. And yeah, I think we're doing about 1 or 2 a week, maybe 3 a week now. So if you find something else that you're interested in, then, you know, please do sign up. And yeah, any more. Hopefully the next couple of diversity talks will be sorted fairly soon, just on speaker availability. And obviously, thank you very much, Carla, for being our first. You know, really great talk. All right.
Yes, thanks, Carla. Appreciate it.
Cheers.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.